Nicolás Maduro Moros, fraud, always fraud. Starting this report on Nicolás Maduro and his presidential administration is a complex challenge because the available information is scarce, official data is manipulated, and his entire government team is focused on maintaining a facade of democracy while committing all kinds of crimes against the population they claim to represent and defend. Maduro has been in the presidency of Venezuela since 2013, with a mandate until 2025, continuing what the deceased former president Hugo Chávez Frias had started in 1999 as a Bolivarian revolution that would restore dignity and progress to Venezuelans. But the so-called Bolivarian revolution turned out to be a colossal failure in all areas where it is measured and a condemnation to the fate of one of the richest countries in Latin America. They have absolutely no success to show, and the true disasters of their management are presented as the result of an attack by imperialism, of which they always present themselves as a victim country. They even explain it this way when indoctrinating children with cartoons in children's television programming.
Yo se acabaré contigo, superbigote. Con todo mi poder de ultraderecha colonizadora. Desestabilizaré el país como me da la gana. Serán de nuevo nuestro patio trasero. Voy a robar la paz y tranquilidad, porque los pueblos no pueden tener voz.
In Venezuela, it is broadcast by government order so that children incorporate from childhood that all the country's problems do not correspond to anything other than an external attack, and the solution to the problems never involves transparent government management, eliminating corruption, promoting the development of private companies, or promoting work as in any society that pretends to be civilized and respectful of people's rights under any government model. Presenting the problem in this way to children is already a way of manipulating and indoctrinating them, but that would be nothing compared to fostering the cult of personality of a dictator. We present to you Super Mustache, the anti-imperialist hero who is like the North American Superman and who in each episode saves Venezuela thanks to the support of his people.
Hoy el día de trabajo promete. Qué bonito día hace. Vamos a comenzar nuestras actividades.
Ya me cargué de buena energía respirando este aire puro, así que vamos a nuestras labores.
Ah, pero mira quién tenemos aquí. Al héroe del pueblo. Voy a colonizar a Venezuela con los apellidos de siempre.
¡Ja! Tendrás que pasar sobre mí primero.
Uy, qué miedo tengo. Tengo transnacionales que pondrán un cebo a tu pueblo imposible de evitar.
¡No te queremos! ¡Ya basta, mentiroso! ¡Fuera de aquí! Este es un pueblo unido.
Vamos a atacar los servicios públicos, la luz, el agua y el transporte público en general, para así echarle la culpa a ustedes mismos.
Eso no lo voy a permitir.
¡Que viva Superbigote!
Espero que te sirva de lección porque a mi país no viene ningún pelele a desestabilizar ni dentro ni fuera de nuestro territorio. Entiende que estás solo. Yo tengo un pueblo que me apoya porque trabajo en equipo. Victoria segura.
When in Latin America, we meet some of the millions of Venezuelans who had to leave to reinvent themselves in another country, and we observe their capacity for survival and overcoming. It is inevitable for us to contrast it with the images of those who seize power, leaving the feeling that the best human resources of the country left Venezuela, and in the government remained a band of true mediocrities.
Uno, jura usted cumplir bien, fiel, responsable y cabalmente las responsabilidades con las obligaciones inherentes al cargo, verificando
They have nothing of revolutionaries, no matter how much they mention Simón Bolívar, Negro Primero, and even Chief Guaicaipuro in the oaths. The reality is that they became a tyranny as corrupt as it is insensitive. All of Venezuela and Latin America suffer from them. Nicolás Maduro's official biography says, the first Chavista and worker president in contemporary Venezuelan history who took office with the commitment to continue the so-called Bolivarian revolution that his predecessor Hugo Chávez had started. His true role in Venezuelan history represents the dilemma of the turtle on top of a post. It cannot be believed that it is there. It is not understood how it could have gotten there. It is clear that it could not have climbed there alone. It is evident that it should not be there. It is known that it cannot do anything productive while it is there, and the only sensible thing would be to help it get down. If the previous context is not analyzed, it would not be understood how he could reach a position that exceeds his abilities and that causes so much harm to Venezuela. Nicolás Maduro Moros is so surrounded by lies that it is difficult to start his own biography, as he would not have been born in Venezuela but in Colombia and had to adapt his entire history, forging documents and hiding evidence to assume the presidency because Chávez imposed it. The official biography published says that he is a Venezuelan politician and union leader born on November 23, 1962 in Caracas, and he has been serving as the president of his country in successive periods since 2013 with a mandate until 2025. The controversy over Nicolás Maduro Moros's place of birth would have been resolved with the simple presentation of a genuine birth certificate, but since that does not exist, lies are resorted to cover up the breach of one of the Constitution's requirements.
Maduro es colombiano.
Esa es la pregunta. ¿Las investigaciones le dan a usted la tranquilidad o la seguridad de poder afirmar que Nicolás Maduro es colombiano?
Absolutamente. Por lo menos posee doble nacionalidad. Yo creo particularmente que es colombiano y que tiene una sola nacionalidad y que es la colombiana. Él es hijo de madre colombiana, que eso no tiene duda. Su madre Teresa de Jesús Moros Acevedo es nacida en Cúcuta. Hay una supuesta partida de nacimiento en la cual dicen que ella es de Cúcuta, Colombia, pero nacionalizada venezolana. Nosotros hemos revisado más de 5.000 gacetas de naturalización, no hay ninguna en la cual ella aparezca, por lo tanto no tenemos el documento de que diga que ella está naturalizada, no existe, no es que no lo tengamos, no existe. Pero además ahora hemos descubierto que su padre, que decían que era del estado Falcón, por cierto, de 3 sitios diferentes, buscamos en los 3 sitios, Coro, Cumarebo y Sabanalta, y allí no aparece ninguna partida de nacimiento del padre, que se llama Jesús Nicolás Maduro García, pero es que tampoco aparece la partida de nacimiento.
¿Estas dos personas viven?
No, están muertos.
Y la madre
están muertos ambos, están muertos. Pero el padre no aparece ninguna partida de nacimiento en ninguna parte del territorio nacional, pero lo que sí descubrimos ahora es que la madre de Jesús Nicolás Maduro García, es decir, la abuela de Nicolás Maduro, es de Pamplona, en Colombia. Es decir, toda esa rama también es colombiana. No tienen una sola gota de sangre venezolana. ¿Qué significa esto?
¿Cuál es la consecuencia de esto?
Para ser electo y ejercer el cargo de presidente de la República, según la Constitución venezolana, en su artículo 41 y en su artículo 227 dice que hay que ser venezolano por nacimiento y no poseer ninguna otra nacionalidad. Maduro no ha podido probar que es venezolano. Lo que sí sabemos es que es colombiano por nacimiento, porque la Constitución de Colombia, en su artículo 96, dice que es colombiano todo aquel hijo de madre o padre colombiano. Por lo tanto, él es colombiano.
Maduro's designation to succeed him as a candidate was defined by his predecessor Hugo Chávez and imposed by him on the entire regime structure before his death as a way to avoid eventual internal disputes that had already been occurring. Maduro would have received direct instructions from Chávez to ensure the continuity of the regime and the protection of his interests. Nicolás Maduro managed, with the support of Cuba, which provided him with socialist training for 2 years, to impose himself over the other interested parties in disputing succession.
Tengo un dato secreto que te iba a decir, era que a mí una madrugada me llamaron para que estuviera en una reunión con un altísimo general del gobierno, que hoy no está en Venezuela, pero otro funcionario importantísimo, militar también, que sí está en Venezuela. Me llamaron para una reunión en un sitio privado a la 1 de la madrugada, en una oficina, en las Mercedes en Caracas, para que yo les dijera si Chávez llegaba vivo o no a las elecciones de diciembre. El interés de ellos era llegar a las elecciones para que ganara Chávez, porque sabían que no tenían candidatos, sino Chávez, más nada. Entonces, nada, yo fui, les dije, mire, yo no tengo ni idea de eso, pero allá, ¿y por qué ustedes me buscan a mí? Les dije, bueno, porque es que la información sobre Chávez la manejan Cilia, Maduro y Elías Jagua, que es el hombre que es responsable de los comités cubanos. Entonces, a nosotros no nos informan todo y por eso te llamamos para que nos ayudes en eso y nada, te vamos a agradecer siempre. Ok, perfecto, muy bien, y así fue. Me fui en la madrugada a las 2 horas, 2:30 de la madrugada, ya estaba en mi casa con Nelson Eduardo Mijo, que me recogió en la misma oficina. Así que ¿sí? Así se manejaba esa situación en cuanto a Chávez.
Ese era el hermetismo que existía en ese momento, que ni siquiera su propio entorno sabía lo que estaba pasando y te tenían que consultar a ti, que era tal vez el hombre mejor informado sobre la enfermedad de Chávez en ese momento. Bueno, fuiste el que diste la primicia.
Nicolás Maduro Moros is the son of Nicolás Maduro Garcia, a union leader at the telecommunications company CanTV, while his mother, Teresa Moros, was a housewife. From an early age, he was exposed to labor and union struggles due to his father's activism, who participated in union and leftist movements in Venezuela. He has no more studies than those of secondary education, and although we have searched for information to validate it, the only thing we have been able to find is a controversy regarding a supposed degree in political science that he claims to have from the experimental pedagogical university Libertador, UPL, of which there is no academic record and not even photos of his graduation or of the degree, despite requests from the opposition and civil society for Maduro to reveal his academic records. It's another lie, a case similar to that of the former Argentine president Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, who claims to be a lawyer and whose degree and graduation records were never able to be shown, although she was a university student, but her classmates affirm that she never completed her studies. Nicolás Maduro was a bus driver in the public transportation system of Caracas and later in the Caracas Metro. It was during this time that he became actively involved in union political activity and became a union leader, fighting for the rights of transportation workers and participating in the Socialist League of Venezuela. In 1983, he worked as a bodyguard for presidential candidate José Vicente Rangel. Maduro lived in Havana between 1986 and 1987 as a student of the Nico Lopez Higher School dedicated to the training of cadres of the Communist Party of Cuba, PCC, and also the instruction of future political leaders of ideologically affiliated groups from all of South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and Africa. Maduro, who would have been recommended by the Socialist League of Venezuela, made an excellent impression on his classmates and made international friendships due to his pleasant personality and his spirit of solidarity. In that space, he had the opportunity to relate to Israel Silva Guarnizo, who at that time was a member of the Communist Youth, JUCO, and was chosen to be part of that select group that received training in Marxist philosophy, political economy, Latin American history, history of the Mexican Revolution, among other subjects. Silva Guarnizo shared these memories and photos in a publication in the Colombian Diario de Huila in its edition of March 19, 2013. It was a selection made to the different members of the organization in order to study in a dedicated manner between 1986 and 1987, when we were able to share with different young people from leftist political organizations in Latin America, recalls Silva Guarnizo, executive director of the Association of Cooperatives and Solidarity Enterprises of Huila. His political career changed drastically when in 1990 he joined the Fifth Republic Movement, MVR, a political party that would later become the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, PSUV, and that brought the military Hugo Chávez to power. Maduro and Chávez met in person on December 16, 1993, when the former was able to visit him in his cell at the Yar prison, where he was serving a sentence for his attempted coup against former President Carlos Andrés Pérez in 1992. Maduro was part of a delegation of union delegates authorized for the visiting regime of the inmate, and when he was released, he joined his cause, became part of his bodyguards, and from there accompanied him as a loyal ally. Hugo Chávez gradually entrusted him with the various tasks, and although Nicolás made mistakes, he had the advantage of being obedient.
Y es un gravísimo error que seguimos cometiendo. No lo cometamos más, Nicolás. No lo cometamos más, Nicolás. Incluso revísate para que tú veas que yo firmé un decreto creando algo así como un ente superior de la comuna. ¿Dónde está? No ha funcionado. Nicolás. No lo cometamos más, Nicolás.
Maduro's loyalty to Chávez led him to be appointed to important positions, the most prominent of which was his role as Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2006 to 2010, where he played a crucial role in Venezuelan diplomacy, promoting the Bolivarian agenda, establishing alliances with other Latin American countries, with progressive movements worldwide, and above all participating in strategic meetings of Chávez and the Castros in Cuba, which provided him with socialist training. His degree of exposure always alongside Chávez led him to be the most popular of the civilian wing of Chavismo And finally, with the permission of Cuba, he was appointed to the position of executive vice president in 2012. In Chávez's last public appearance, already knowing about his advanced illness and that he would not survive, he took advantage of the national broadcast to leave a message that no one expected.
Tras la victoria chavista del pasado 7 de octubre, Maduro asumió el cargo de vicepresidente de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela como un premio a su lealtad. Durante su alocución de ayer, Chávez pidió al pueblo venezolano que deposite su confianza en el ex canciller y le den su voto en caso de emergencia irreversible.
Si algo ocurriera, repito, que me inhabilitara de alguna manera, yo, Nicolás Maduro, no solo en esa situación debe concluir como manda la Constitución el periodo, sino que mi opinión firme, plena como la luna llena, irrevocable, absoluta, total, es que en ese escenario que obligaría a convocar, como manda la Constitución de nuevo, a elecciones presidenciales, ustedes elijan a Nicolás Maduro como presidente de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela. Yo se los pido desde mi corazón.
This decision took everyone by surprise and generated internal conflict within part of the Chavista movement that had its own potential successors in the military, especially Diosdado Cabello, who was also the president of the National Assembly and the leader of the entire military structure spread throughout all ministerial and economic structures, including the state oil company PDVSA. Maduro was seen as very close to Cuba, and that was not liked by the Venezuelan militia, but Chávez had been clear in front of the entire movement and the entire country, nothing less than on national television, so Maduro did not detach himself from the side of his commander and was the only one who accompanied him in all interventions in Cuba, centralizing all the information, aligning everyone under his command, and containing the dissenters under the guidance and advice of Chávez himself and the Castros in Cuba.
En ese escenario que obligaría a convocar, como manda la Constitución de nuevo, a elecciones presidenciales, ustedes elijan a Nicolás Maduro como presidente de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela.
Between the last public appearance of President Chávez on December 8, 2012, and the announcement of his death on March 5, 2013, there is no reliable official information, but it was the moment when Nicolás Maduro gained more power.
Inmediatamente supimos que estaban quitando las tarimas para celebrar Año Nuevo, que estaban poniendo en varios lugares de Caracas. Chávez murió entre el 30 y el 31 de diciembre del año 2012. Que después tuvieron 3 meses para arreglar todo lo que querían arreglar, toda esta tragedia. Bueno, mira, sí. Eso es algo que hace muy bien Cuba y la inteligencia cubana. Ahora, yo no tengo ninguna duda que Chávez se murió en diciembre del 2012 y que se anunció el 5 de marzo del 2013. Y que allí está involucrado el alto gobierno. Yo soy una convencida que por supuesto que Diosdado sabe, y yo creo que eso es lo que los une a todos. Ellos pueden pelear, pero ellos les une una gran mentira y una gran estafa mayor de la que ya había hecho Chávez. Que es que ellos terminaron de raspar y de repartir y de firmar cosas con la maquinita esa que sea la firma de Chávez. De la muerte de Chávez en diciembre del 2012. Esto es algo que lo sabe el mundo entero, pero que hemos querido comprar los venezolanos, muchos venezolanos quisieron comprar, y mucho dirigente y mucho líder del mundo quiso comprar eso de que Chávez murió en marzo.
Chávez muere en Cuba en el 31 de diciembre, el 30 o 31 de diciembre, esconden el dato de la muerte de Chávez, reúnen en La Habana a la cúpula dirigente, les explican que la única manera de subsistir es si se mantienen unidos, y unidos para el gobierno cubano significa que Maduro es la cabeza de esa unión, y ahí forjan el futuro de Venezuela como una especie de colonia económica de Cuba, lo cual es tremendo, porque Cuba cabe 10 veces en Venezuela desde el punto de vista geográfico y cabe 100 veces desde el punto de vista económico.
After the real death of Chávez, who had all the absolute power concentrated in his person, from the management of bank accounts to powers that he had to delegate with his own signature, it took several months to reorganize the strategy that would guarantee succession through the ballot box. They had to pact within the movement for them to recognize Maduro, agree with the deceased president's own family, and establish electoral strategies so that the people fulfill Chávez's request to vote for Maduro. Only then would they have been able to notify the death for March 5, 2013. The death of Venezuelan President Hugo Chávez was officially announced to have occurred at 4:25 p.m. local time, 8:55 p.m. UTC on Tuesday, March 5, 2013, at the Dr. Carlos Arvelo Military Hospital in the city of Caracas.
Ha fallecido el comandante presidente Hugo Chávez Frías.
As planned, Nicolás Maduro was designated to assume the interim presidency and then called for presidential elections in April 2013, which he won by a narrow margin of votes, defeating opposition candidate Enrique Capriles Radonsky. His victory was the subject of controversy and protests by the opposition, who denounced irregularities in the electoral process. Could all this operation be interpreted as a triumph of the Cubans over Venezuela? They were imposing a tableau formed by them in the presidency of Venezuela just when they needed it most.